Shrimadbhagavatam, divine grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanadavan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Radhakunja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mahi Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gwai ki, Nitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord and Spirit of Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva namam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamiti nasta prayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhagavati naistaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 31, is that right? Kim va bhagavata dharma Kim va bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupita na prayena nirupita priya Parahamsanam. Oh, sorry. Priya Paramahamsanam. Ta eva hi achyuta ta eva hi achyuta priya kim va bhagavata dharma na prayerupita priya paramahamsanam taiva hi achyuta priya kim va bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahamsanam taiva hi achyuta priya kim bhagavata dharma prayena nirupita priya paramahamsanam ta eva hi achyuta priya kim va bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahamsanam ta eva hi achyuta priya
Kim Bhagavata Dharma
kim va bhagavata dharma
Na Prayena Narupita
na prayena nirupita
Priya Paramahansanam
priya paramahamsanam
Ta Eva Hat Achyuta Priya
ta eva hi achyuta priya kim kimba or bhagavata dharma devotional activities of the living beings not prayena almost nirupita directed priya dear paramahamsanam of the perfect beings tat eva that also he certainly achyuta the infallible priya attractive kim va bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahamsam ta eva hi achyuta priya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of Acharnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Please repeat. This may be.
This may be.
Because
I did not
specifically point out
specifically out
the devotional service
devotional service
of the Lord,
of the Lord,
which is dear
which is dear
both to perfect beings
and
and to the infallible Lord.
to the infallible Lord.
This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, by Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The dissatisfaction which was being felt by Srila Vyasadeva is expressed herein in his own words. This was left for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him. Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. So, this is also revelation to us. If Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedas, who had completed all 4 of the Vedas, still was not satisfied and felt he had not satisfied the audience he was writing to, because he had not included the activity of the Supreme Person and devotional service to the Supreme Person. So this is the same way in our lives. We can look at our lives and see how, until we came to Krishna, until we come to the understanding of Krishna, our understanding of everything in life is like incomplete, right? So now Krishna gives us, through the presence with us in this, actually, a completely different perspective on everything. So we can see everything clearly from a Krishna conscious perspective. And so Sri Vyasadeva is pointing out as well that without receiving knowledge of the Supreme Personality's pastimes, then our lives also are incomplete, so to speak. But it is these pastimes that give it the completeness. And it is the nectar that is being begged for by Narad Muni, his spiritual master, for him to give the enlightenment needed for the rest of the civilization for the next 10,000 years, right? And so here we are, 5,000 years later, hearing these very same words, in a language completely removed from what was even present. This English language that we're receiving it in was not even brought into existence at the time that this was being spoken. So how precious it is that we have the great privilege of being able to hear in our own language. And I might point out as well that the fact that these scriptures are so important for humankind means there are times that God himself steps in to give, quote unquote, normal human beings knowledge for the spreading of the teachings of the Vedas. There's an account given in the Bible about the fact that there were people gathered from all over the world to hear about this person who they were being told was a great healer and all like this. So similarly today, we have people from all over the world now as in us. And we have the ability to give to them the highest knowledge about various pastimes that the Supreme Lord has taken part in, which the conversation of gives realization and experience of the relationship that we are all meant to have with the Supreme Person eternally. And as such, eventually, I'm even now the possibility, because when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was looking into breatharianism. You don't need to eat. When you're out living in a cave somewhere and you just want to think about God and you just want to meditate and, have a relationship with God, eating becomes like a chore. You have to go out and gather food and then bring it back and you got to prepare it. It becomes quite an event, in your day. So breatharianism, the first time I heard about it, sounded very attractive. I thought, wow, save a lot of time and you can use it for, constructive things than just building the physical body. So what comes into mind as well is the fact that in such a yuga, there was such a perfect arrangement with the entire planet that just by the breath, we would gain more valuable, because in such a yuga, they live in this way. They go thousands of years sitting in place in meditation. Not a day or two fasting. 1,000 years they do that for. And then when they're done, they're just as well fit as they were physically as they were when they started. So even the air it's more powerful, it's more potent. When the living entities and the earth itself is in its original pristine state. All the green vegetation is putting out that which we survive off of, and contained within every act that we call breath is an incarnation of Krishna, holding the whole thing together. And so one who is fully realized of that knows that even the breathing process, the breathing process, Krishna himself, is what causes everything to come into being. And so we have, by being put into that same image, that same form, by the process of our breathing, we are experiencing life. But if we experience even breath with the realization, this breath that we're breathing originated, and it has been breathed before, but it came out of the body. Even the air we breathe. The plants who take up the air that we exhale, they put out breath that we inhale. But that's also coming from its interaction with the Supreme Person. So everything that's in this universe, from one perspective, can be looked at as sacred. All came out of Krishna's body. But then once enters in the false ego, then it gets contaminated by desire, by will, by wantonness, and lacking. So what Vyasadeva is being brought to the conclusion of by Sri Narad Muni is that his life will be complete, his life will be satisfied, his desire to have a fulfilling satisfaction of having completed a work in his life for the benefit of mankind will be complete when he does write these pastimes of Lord Krishna, which are his own, actually, in another form. So Sri Vyasadeva himself, when we say these are the words of God, you can take the whole thing. And Vyasadeva has spoken this into being, and then giving it to his son, Sukadeva Goswami. So we tend to say this is, quote unquote, the words of God. And when you look at many other writings, which we include in comparison, we see that even in the writing itself, it's revealed that there is an author who is being inspired to write what he saw, who was not himself God, doing the writing, but he was inspired by superior consciousness. So we actually have the real form of that which other people are propounding and believing their scriptures to be. And so we can understand if these past writings have held on for this long to teach Buddha, the teachings of the person they call Jesus Christ, Usha, if they have had the ability to last this long, transform the lives of billions of followers. Jai Shri Jai Jai Shri. So just think how powerful and transformational these actual teachings of the mouth, very mouth of the Supreme Person himself, are going to have in the future generations, more so. And yet when you see the person, one life, being considered sacred by one group of people, the Christians, the rest of the world has determined that this is the year 2025. They're saying that 2025 years ago, this particular person was born. So that if, as I'm saying, those kinds of scriptures can have the effect on the world, look at the effect Krishna consciousness and how many people. It took Christianity more 300, 400, 500 years before these writings became available in, written form. And then they were written to specific groups of people. Now, these that we have are available to the entire world after only maybe 60 or 50 years of preaching. They became worldwide, right? Or even 40. And so, to the extent now that we can see Krishna conscious within 40 years has had more direct effect upon the world relation to getting the world set into the proper line with activities that are directly related and connected with God, not some surmise of a man's imagination, but that which Krishna himself has given to us for our benefit. And as it's revealed, even though Vedavyas was not finding satisfaction, his dissatisfaction was the fact that he was not giving it all to the audience that he was writing to. All the things that Krishna has done to reveal himself to mankind has been for the benefit of mankind. So he's not here because he needs us to feed him. He's not here because he needs us to worship him. He's doing that for us. He's come here for our benefit. And we can realize that every day. Krishna is in the eternal realm. Everything is perfect. Much like Srila Prabhupada. He was in Vrindavan, in the perfect environment. At that time, there's no wars in Vrindavan. You rarely hear about any crime going on. You can leave your luggage out. If it was locked up with a key, you could leave the keys right there. You wouldn't even have to worry about being stolen. You go back the next day and it would still be there. That's the nature of Vrindavan. All Krishna cities are like that because all the people who have gained the entrance to that place by their consciousness that they have developed, because Krishna had given them the process by which to develop that consciousness, he opens the doors. You want to come and see what my city is like? Then you will see the differences, the mentality and the consciousness of the people who dwell in the city, who have been given the means of understanding what is pleasing to God and what kind of a lifestyle he wants us to have and live, and what kind of a life, what kind of things he wants us to eat. But I still believe it's possible to come to this state of knowing we don't need anything else but Krishna. So the soul, Balaram. It's either Balaram or Lord Ram's brother, Lakshman. I think it was Lakshman, actually. He fasted the whole time. that they were in the wild. All the time they were in the wild. And then Krishna asked him, he said, well, there were times when we were having Odyssey, and you were setting aside the food that we would have taken on that day because it was a Odyssey. He said, yeah, you can go and check hiding places, and that food will still be there.
Okay.
So even the food he had set aside for the next day, he left there. So Lakshman had fasted through that entire time. They were in the forest for 12 years. Right? So that's what happened to the Pandavas as well, 12 years in the forest, remember that? So they were subjected to have to go into exile secretly. And then if they got caught, they got found out, they'd have to go in for another 12 years. They lost a card game, or a dice, the rolling of the dice. The dice were Uncle Sukuni's bones. And so by that, he was able to tell the bones what numbers would come up. So it was a cheating. It was a cheating that he had done to the entirety of the Pandavas, gain all their kingdoms, everything. And they were, as you know, Kshatriyas, you couldn't turn down a challenge. Couldn't turn it down. If you were a Kshatriya, you turned it down. You had to take on the challenge. Otherwise, you were considered, it was infamy. You were left for infamy. Nobody would consider you able to take up any challenge if you refuse a challenge. So they accepted the challenge, but it was a cheating propensity by those who had long time, because of their enviousness, tried to kill family members. Their own cousins were trying to kill them, the Pandavas. They went from one place to another. Then finally, at the end of their confinement to the forest, then this was the last year in which they had to be incognito. And in the last year, they took shelter of a king that knew them previously, but didn't recognize them. Now were disguised. Arjuna became a ballet dancer. Arjuna became a ballet dancer. And I think Bhima a wrestler or something. Or maybe a cook. No, a cook, yeah, a cook. Yeah, cook, that's right. And so, but once they found out, once the king found out, whoa, he got really angry with Yudhishthira. And he took his ring, the king took his own ring, and he threw Yudhishthira, hit him in the head, and blood started coming out. And Yudhishthira was holding, because if the blood touched the ground, the man who threw that would have had very serious reactions caused to him for a long, long time. So by Yudhishthira's mercy, he's keeping his own blood from touching the ground. See, this is the mercy in the heart. He is religion personified. Yudhishthira is. And so we see the characteristics, the qualities brought up by such a one, that he would take someone who's trying to do him physical harm, and at that same moment, in his heart of hearts, not want any harm to come to that one that is doing him harm. See, that's like the mercy of Christ on the cross. He said, please, God, don't bring anything upon these people because they don't know what they're doing. And we say the same thing to those in the material world, because they're governed by the same likes and desires that we have. They can try the modes of ignorance, passion, and even goodness to some extent. Even with all their pious acts about to try and feed the poor, Salvation Army, clothe the poor, this and that thing. It's all giving to people who are endeavoring evil life. The scriptures advise that we give to those who are realized, and by that we get benefit and not well. So the benefit you get from one you give to is their knowledge. So if someone, just like that king threw at Yudhisthira and drew blood, someone is throwing at you insults, someone is throwing accusations, false accusations that are not true. If you hold your tongue, control, and just receive it, just let them say whatever they want to say, you gain every bit of pious activity that soul has ever performed. This is Beta. So powerful it is just to not respond to people throwing what the modes of energy are causing them to throw at others because of enviousness, because of greed, because of lust, because of anger. So many reasons throwing accusations at you because they don't have the qualities you have. And if you simply take it, you will gain every good quality they have, if there is anything in them to be gained by. But they wouldn't be throwing things at you if there was much to be gained anyways. But also you can win them over your simple acceptance. Okay, you think that way. If I was walking in your shoes, and I had gone through every experience you had gone through to this point in my life, I would be the one throwing. So I just accept it, right? That's the mind of the Buddha. That's the way we have to see what they are. The saying, walk a mile in my shoes. The thing is, we have other people's shoes before. To have come to Krishna consciousness, you've been in 8 million species of life, but this is not your first time around either. You came in contact with Krishna consciousness before to be in it this time around in Kali Yuga. That's what it is in Kali Yuga. To get into Krishna consciousness, you had contact before this life. So we're very fortunate souls. And although, see, we don't realize the odds of our having come in contact with Krishna consciousness at this particular point in time. It's like more than 1 billion to 1. More than billions and billions to 1. So, even inside the womb of your mother, to get place inside your mother, it was a race against close to 1 billion to 1, right? So the fact that you're here means already you have outraced close to 1 billion potential human beings. And that form that you was the superior most form of those that you were amongst to be able to be born. The rest of it, I should correct myself in that. You were the one that your father empowered to get to, that your father most favored the consciousness of, that you most, were directly related to the kind of consciousness your father was having at the time that he was giving your mother you. Your father handed you to your mother in the form of a tadpole. Okay? So we were kind of like tadpoles. Isn't it a form of evolution that happens within the body of the mother? So that evolution is going on, but not to change the species, because within the species is already the means of the different souls to be able to experience all the different species. And if we knew the science perfectly, we would be able to tell, even by conversing with a person. This is what Yudhisthira had. He had the knowledge of omens, knowing what omens are. You could tell at the crossing of a path of a cat walking across his path what it would mean for him the next hour or two. You could see by the flock of birds flying in the sky. But there are particular things in our own life that have meaning the same way that dreams can have meaning to us, that Krishna has been communicating with us since time immemorial, actually. And before we were even able to conceive language that we are speaking now, in our mother's womb we had conception of Krishna, the scripture says. And we were praying, please get me out of this place. I'm getting bitten. I'm being eaten up by bugs inside my mother's womb. This is the prayer of the soul, which is in contact with super soul. And see, we lose that. Because from being taught we're the physical body, our parents condition us. When we get rewarded by what we do, they teach us to do that. And they don't know that. You're crying. Oh, give him something sweet to eat. Oh, so every time I cry, I get something sweet. So I'm going to cry every time I want something sweet. That's how it is. And the soul getting conditioned then grows to believe I'm the controller. I can manipulate people that way. I can manipulate to get what I want. And as this grows, they gain the ability more and more to manipulate the energy like that. A woman with her body, a man with his finesse, all these artful uses of the English language and the Spanish language and the French language, and all these things, the little means of suggestions and hints. And we attract other people like that to ourselves, not to God. We're trying to gain everything here we can for our own enjoyment. So we look at other people as a means of enjoying ourselves. It's exactly opposite of the consciousness we're supposed to have here for developing that consciousness that the living entities in the spiritual world have towards real development of love for Krishna. And so that love for Krishna is always directing us. What can I do? How can I be of service at this moment? What service can I take up? And that's this giving, the same way Vyasa is now. See, that's the same mentality of Vyasadeva. How can I give? Isn't it? That's Krishna's mentality. How can I give? What can I do to give? And see, we're told by most religions, how do we get out of God? So what do I want? Give me what I want. And that's exactly what we got here for, the false ego. So if we use religion to kind of more endorse the idea of the false ego getting what it wants from God, now we're treating God like he's our servitor. That's not being a servitor to God, is it? So reveals how to control God is by love. If you want God to do what you want to do, love him and ask him what he wants you to do. Then automatically Krishna is going to feel indebted the same way you feel indebted to someone who does something for you, isn't it? So we feel indebted to God for everything we've been getting. When we do something for Krishna, we think we're doing him good, but he takes that in return as love to him. And that's what he's explaining, and he feels that way when he says, if you offer me something with love and devotion, I'll accept it. But not only that, he goes into great detail about what give you. But see, he doesn't reveal that at first, because revealing that to us, we will want to do it for that reason, which gets us back into the false ego. Oh, if you're going to do that for me, Krishna, then I'll do it. Okay, fine, yeah. We have to develop that uncontaminated love. I'll do this no matter what, Krishna. I want to do your service no matter what. And please don't pull me away from it. Let me do it forever. I want to be connected with you forever. And I want to do that which is pleasing you forever. So if we have that mentality, Krishna will give us the ability. Because he's the ability. He is the ability, which he says he is. Then we know we have to go to him to find the ability even. So we may have desire, but the only means we can have to fulfill that desire is asking Krishna for the ability to perform these tasks that we see us be able to do, but we have to have the ability to do it, and Krishna is that ability. On the one hand, I'm saying, don't ask Krishna for things. But on the other hand, if we do find ourselves able to serve, then we want to serve to the best of our abilities. And if we know that Krishna is the source of ability, nothing wrong with asking him to refine our knowledge about what we're doing, because that is in direct service to him. God. Getting back to the idea of the earth, which I was talking about earlier, I get realizations about this every day. I think this thing is pressing. We are losing Florida already. Florida has already been, the Everglades, overflooded now to the extreme. Now people are actually the possibility of their whole state being taken up by water, and it will happen. And see, with the earth out of axis, we were talking about, astrologically, we are affected because of our involvement with karma and controlled by karma, which is the next force of the universe called false ego. This false ego is accumulating all the karma being created by all the living entities within the universe, right? Okay, so being forced by that, the influences, the exterior influences of the universe, these planetary systems, are ruled by specific mentalities and rulers, just like we see on this planet. People are born into China by desire, and people are born under the rule of others by the relationships they have had with those dictators previously. And so they develop and formulate in their mind desires of wanting to be controlled. Under certain circumstances, the control by the proper ruler, under circumstances, would make a perfect society. If Krishna is ruling the country, someone from the outside seeing that might consider him to be a dictator, because you better do what he says or else. Or you're not going to be in his city, at least, right? But because he gives such good advice, no one in his cities are satisfied with any of his ways. They're all feeling indebted to him because just living in his city is so beneficial. And two, when you come into Krishna's temple, your mind is set to do chanting or reading or whatever. When you do that with Krishna in the presence, you can sense, eventually, you will get the sense that, wow, I'm having are due to Krishna's influence. And they're not my thoughts. You get superior thoughts that are influences from Krishna that you know are that you couldn't think up yourself. And it brings happiness. It brings fulfillment of satisfaction that you're looking for in everything else. We look for it in, in relationships with people. We look for it in books. We look for it in, looking for things that taste nice and all these things that we do. But when you get it from Krishna, it's what you've been looking for. It's the satisfying taste. The reason if you're getting something more satisfying, that's giving you something greater than that achieved by the demigods and the heavenly planets who are drinking somaras, the lifespan of 37,000 of our years. They're drinking a nectar that does that, right? But we have actually been given by the absorption of our minds and our strength and our abilities in Krishna's name and the Maha Mantra that he's given direct connection to his spiritual energy. This is an eternal nectar that we are of. The soul chanting Hare Krishna is drinking the nectar of Krishna's name. Far, it cannot even be compared to that served in the heavenly planets called Somaras. No comparison whatsoever of that. We are being given the ability to drink As we chant, it is a drinking of the soul of Krishna's own name, of the sense we're made of. In this way, you're actually living off the self. The substance of the self is truth, and it is the soul lives off of, because it is the substance the soul is. So just like our bodies are made of the earth, we take the earth, food from the earth, made of the earth, to feed it, then the knowledge we use is also food to the soul, same way. And the more we feed it, the more it will be able to fulfill others, the food, that they also, truth that they live off of. You have the eternal food. See, Krishna's name is an eternal seed. That you have the tongue to plant in people's hearts. Just like Krishna did with Brahma, planting his name in Brahma's heart. You have the tongue to plant Krishna's name in every soul you meet. Wow, what a garden you have. You have eternal garden of fruits, eternal fruits, because those are relationships you develop with others in this world based on his love, based on knowledge of Krishna, based on conversations of these past times with Krishna. They will go on. You're feeding them that substance that will give them that eternal food that Krishna is to the soul. Relationship with Krishna is eternal food the soul can have. As long as we fill our minds, and we have the ability to do that through Krishna consciousness, because we know he's the ability, we read about him. And if you can show us somebody better, okay, we'll read that. But see too, Hercules. We're going to read about Hercules. Hare place.
Yes.
That's Krishna. These also, civilizations of past, were given, sometimes direct, sometimes indirect. The same way described, Mother Kunti gave birth to the Pandavas. The same way described Jesus Christ was given birth through Indra. The same way Hercules is described as manifesting from his father, who was a demigod. What was his name? He was in the city of Athena, right? And what was his father's name? Thor? No. Zeus. Okay, Zeus. Thor is, that's not Greek, is it?
No, Thor is Celtic.
Celtic.
Norse.
Norse.
To be specific, yeah.
But see, it's the same philosophy. These same people are renowned souls that have been given the ability to manifest on this planet from heavenly beings that came here to do that. And they come normally to give us, although they're not given as much lust, because they got to the heavenly realms by restraining themselves and living pious lives, but still having to fulfill lusty desires for a companionship and friendship like that. There's still love, not absolutely pure, which is why they're in the heavenly realms contained within this universe. When love is purified for love of God, we leave this universe entirely. And this is the very rare set of circumstances that Srila Prabhupada has created for the whole world to benefit by and live under the protection of, be in the shelter of, and take deeds to take part in of, so that the energy we engage in will protect us from the time we would otherwise be engaged in that external energy creating karma. Now we're engaging in that energy that frees from karma and gives us the ability to free others by their engagement.
Just by hearing the holy name.
Yeah, give them the holy name, give them a book, give them give them a CD with Krishna songs on it. So many ways to preach consciousness in this age. We can take full advantage of it, like Dave has a desire to go out. And you know what? Even by talking about it and having the desire of Lord Chaitanya gives you the benefit of doing it. Because you're fanning the fire in your own being, so to speak, to fire the compassion of loving the Sankirtan movement for knowing what it can do. When the world is so wrapped up in the tense anxiety of 8, 10, 12-hour jobs, and you see gray hairs forming before their time, because of the anxiety they're putting themselves through. For what? For 3 meals a day? For 3 meals a day. Whereas we have service we can do that guarantees an eternity. An eternity. How do you compare eternity to 3 meals a day? It's like no comparison, is there? But that is a result of Krishna consciousness, the eternal relationship in the eternal realm. Can you imagine? I can't conceive. I'm trying in my mind. But eternity is not something the mind has normal access to. We have to be given access. Because otherwise, how would we even think of eternity, the concept of an eternal, anything eternal, without scriptures revealing to us that? You see any schools being taught how to bring up a family, how to give people eternal knowledge. Nothing like that in schools. That's why it's so much needed. Even if, let's say there's no God, even if there's no God, still the concepts we have to make by objective comparison, we have to accept these are far superior to concepts of material, temporary, constantly changing knowledge about things we're always thinking we need to know more about because our knowledge is incomplete. Everything we think we know about technology today, 100 years from now, we're going to look back on and say how stupid we were. Burning petroleum for energy, using kerosene, all these things. We're thinking of those things as necessary, and temporarily we're using them as well. But there are ways of serving Krishna far superior that would allow us. All these cities are thought by those who are using those cities for Krishna's service are just normal activities. Whereas we look at them as great feats. Why? Because our false ego wants us to use them to grant ourselves. We want even fame, Fame, adoration, distinction is a big barrier the mind has to break out to think that these things are for ourselves. They can keep us connected to the material world. And so we got to get away. We only want to bring people to know Krishna. And automatically, people will be attracted to us. We don't have to want to attract people or try to please people even. Because by pleasing Krishna, everybody else is pleased. That's the same with the demigods. Because the demigods are also deriving some benefit by every offering we put on there. So 33 million demigods, right? And when you make an offering to Krishna, you are revealing that the circumstances the demigods have created for you to prepare the environment, the substances of the preparation, the means of preparing the fire, the growth of the plant, all of these things combined require 33 million controllers to do that. And your offering it to Krishna makes that preparing that they did perfection of their lives. Think about that. Krishna has put you as a devotee in a superior position, actually, than these demigods when you are able to take the efforts of the demigods that most people are using for their own welfare and offer the supreme person out of the love of your heart. And by that act, then, those demigods also are having their acts and their involvement with the material energy a perfect offering. Because what gets to Krishna then is perfected. So you're contributing to the demigod. That's amazing. See what the meaning of devotee is. That's why Srila Prabhupada, when we say devotee, we take it naturally as kind of anybody engaging in a service. But the high effect, the quality of the service that you are engaging in when you're engaging in Krishna's energy, it's not a normal act. All of these activities to engage with Krishna's temple, directly engage with Krishna's energy, is far from ordinary, far from normal, and it will give you eternal, long-lasting eternal love. As long as eternity can be, that's what you're going to get the benefit of it by. Yeah, that's how kind Krishna is. So it's about that time again. Fill our bellies. Transform these material bodies into Jai. Any comments, any questions, any realization? Anybody might have? Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai ki jai. Mahaprashanam ki jai.